everybody. Next up, we hop upriver to Craven Cottage, where we'll be hosted by Fulham. Kick-off on Saturday is at the holy hour of 3 p.m. If you're coming in from Essex, Fenchurch Street trains are diverted in and out of Liverpool Street. There's no Piccadilly line, and whilst the District line to Putney Bridge is open, the western bits from Ealing Broadway and Richmond are shut if you're coming from that direction. Check before you leave and all that. So, Fulham then. Well, so far this season, such as it is, they have the full set of a win, a draw and a defeat under their belt. Their season opener at Old Trafford saw them slightly unfortunate not to come away with a point following an 87th minute winner for the home side. They followed that up with a 2-1 win at home to Leicester, a result that was a bit more comfortable than the scoreline suggests. Then the last weekend that they played, they did just about enough to earn a point up at Ipswich. That leaves them with 4 points from the 3 played so far, which is a point and a place above our good selves. There were 5 new signings for Daisy to research this week, enough to keep her busy without muttering under her breath too loudly. Their first arrival was a return home for Ryan Singson. The left-sided fullback, wing-back, whatever, made over 100 league appearances for the Cottagers between 2016 and 2019. Then, tragically, he signed for Tottenham in a deal worth £25 million. He barely got a look in there. 38 league appearances in 5 years tells its own story, though the better part of 2020-21 was spent out in Germany on loan at Hoffenheim. Spurs released the England under-21 cap at the end of last season, so Fulham picked him up on a free. Emile Smith-Rowe was the next arrival. He too had to overcome hardship to make it to the Premier League. In Smith-Rowe's case, he had the misfortune to have been born in Croydon. Despite that, he made it into Arsenal's first team. He was part of the England team that won the 2023 under-21 Euros against Spain, but he found it difficult to nail down a first 11 place at Arsenal following a needling groin injury that required surgery in 2022-23. He'd have no such problems at Fulham, who paid £27 million to bring him down the Piccadilly line, which was then open, changing at Earls Court for the District. They spent £7 million to bring in Spanish central defender Jorge Cuenca from Villarreal. However, 20% of that fee ended up at Barcelona, with the Catalans having shrewdly inserted a sell-on clause when he headed off to Villarreal as a kid. He's yet to make a league appearance this season, his one start coming in the 2-0 away win at Birmingham in the League Cup. And with there being no injury worries, one would expect him to be on the bench this weekend. Defensive midfield options were enhanced by the £20 million signing of Sander Berge from Burnley. Fulham will be hoping for a jinx to be broken by the Norwegian, who, having joined Burnley from Sheffield United, has actually been relegated with both of his last 2 clubs. He'll be wanting to avoid a hat-trick. The final arrival was another central defender in the form of Joachim Andersen, who commanded a £30 million fee to escape Crystal Palace. It's not the Dane's first spell at Fulham. As a Lyon player, he spent 2020-21 on loan at the Cottage. Had enough of talking about them? Yeah, me too. So let's move on to the wild and wacky world of association football. And it's a profit and sustainability special this week. Having just about regained my composure after watching Scotland self-destruct faster than a Bond villain's secret lair this week, a quick scan of the news brought forth the news that the independent panel's hearing into the 115 charges faced by Manchester City is about to start. So soon, guys. In other news, the powers that be have approved the financial sleight of hand utilised by Chelsea last year to avoid profit and sustainability problems. You may recall that they sold a couple of hotels to themselves, which apparently made everything okay. Of course, this year they won't have those 2 hotels to sell, and with them having assembled a squad the size of a small nation's army, they'll be hoping to pick up that community chest card that says they've won second prize in a beauty contest before they land on go to jail. The final bit of news from the murkier end of football finances came from Leicester, who you may recall were facing charges resulting from an alleged overspend when they were last in the Premier League. That case descended into farce as it was discovered that whoever had drafted the legislation hadn't taken into account the possibility that a team might be in a different league when charged. The Foxes successfully argued that, as they weren't members of the Premier League at the time they were charged, the rules couldn't apply to them. With Leicester having won their case, the authorities are now looking at employing someone other than that bloke in the pub who studied law for a few weeks before being kicked out of university for non-attendance in order to do the rewrite. Let's move on to us, shall we? Well, Man City turned out to be, not quite as disappointing as it might otherwise have been. The first 5 minutes saw us unlucky not to take the lead, before we both reverted to type, whereby once you lose possession against them, it takes you half an hour to get it back. When they're like that, the last thing you need to do is gift them a goal, so it was disappointing when we did. We had a bit of luck with the equaliser. Good as the move had been when Bowen put the ball into the box, there were no teammates around to find, so an own goal was about the only way that particular move was going to benefit us. Having said that, their second goal was absolutely superb. It was the sort of move and finish that I was brought up by my late dad applauding, whether it be us or an opponent. Disappointingly, I was in a bit of a minority in my part of the ground. Sign of the times, I guess. I reckon most of the people around me would have probably booed inimitability off that time. The second half was excellent, though. Where we'd sat back before, we spent long spells taking the game to them. There was some fine football there, and whilst as soon as Kudos hit the post, a 3-1 reverse looked inevitable, even if we did have to give them that one as well, there was enough to encourage optimism for future weeks to come. The international contingent, by and large, returned with not much to worry about on the injury front. Bowen managed to stay fit largely as a result of simply watching both of the England games from the bench, unlike Harry Kane, who watched the Ireland match at least from the pitch. Areola, who missed the second half of the City game with a knock, seems likely to return to take his place between the sticks. The one injury doubt will be Fulkrug, who, having scored in Germany's 5-0 win over Hungary, was forced to sit out their 2-2 draw against the Dutch with a sore Achilles. Mr. Lopetegui remained more optimistic over the player's availability than the German boss Nagelsmann, who was quoted as saying the player would need a few weeks before playing. The only long-term absentee is Aaron Cresswell. His hamstring, which gave way in the warm-up against Bournemouth, is likely to be a problem for a few months. We shouldn't carry on, of course, without saying hello to our final arrival of the window, Senor Carlos Soler, who arrived on a season's loan from Paris Saint-Germain. He will strengthen the options in midfield, though his biography also interestingly suggests that during his younger days he was more of a striker, a prolific one at that. We of course wish him all the best. And so, dear friends, to the prediction. This was one of those weeks where you wish that the international break hadn't interrupted things. I think had we played them last week, there would have been enough of a feel-good factor from the City game for me to have gone for a win. It still shouldn't be beyond us, even allowing for the break. However, I'm minded to err on the side of caution, particularly since they appear to have no injury issues to worry about. So with that in mind, the £2 that I was going to send to the Premier League to double their legal budget will instead be wagered on the Winston Turf Accountancy digital app type thing on a 2-2 draw. Enjoy the game.